Hello and welcome to Every Day's Off. I'm going to do something a little bit different today. I don't have a video for you. This is more akin to a podcast. But as I speak, I'll put some quotes up on the screen from great men of the past. Today's topic is, what does it mean to be a good man? I remember when I was a junior in college, my grandfather, on the very last time I saw him, said, "Be a good boy." That was the last thing he said to me. And now I find myself, nearly 40 years old, trying to be a good man. And it isn't about success or earning money or just about hard work. I chased those ideals throughout my youth. I graduated high school and college with honors. I started my career the day after graduation, got married, had kids, bought a nice house with a fence, the whole American dream. As I worked my way up, I served on 5 boards of directors, was the president of 2 of those, gave speeches, earned awards, etc., etc. None of it satisfied. Because despite my faith in God, I had bought into the lie that my self-worth is predicated on the approval of others. I remember one day before everything changed, I was presented with an award at a conference, and I immediately left the conference, drove back to my office, and tossed the plaque into the floor atop a stack of others. I began working on my next project, but I paused because it dawned on me that I had taken something that might have been the highlight of anyone else's life and tossed it aside like it was nothing. This moment of clarity wasn't enough to break the cycle. It would be a year before I had to change, before I learned the hardest lesson that any leader can, before I learned how to fall. In all the hustle of the day-to-day, trying to make deadlines and support employees and others who counted on me, I ignored my family. My marriage was struggling. I barely saw my kids. It was hard. But it was about to get even worse, because the same people who had awarded me for my independence and leadership and creative problem solving turned their backs on me when I needed them most. I made a decision that was publicly unpopular, and they said, "You should have called and asked us first." But that wasn't what they had told me for over a decade, as I worked for them and made countless decisions every day that made them look good. And I'll spare you the details, but it all blew up in my face. In the end, I had done nothing illegal. I had done nothing unbiblical in this case either. And I learned that I had been working so hard for so long, dedicating days, nights, weekends, holidays, kids' birthdays, my entire adult life to an employer who didn't care. And I went home and I looked at my family in a new light, because at long last, after years of taking them for granted, I realized that every time my son said, "Hey, Daddy," every time my little girl drew me a picture, every time my wife came home from the store with my favorite treat, it was because they do care. They are the award that matters. They are a gift from God. And I had to make some major changes to realign my priorities toward them. And I learned that when you wrong someone, you say you're sorry. And if someone wrongs you and they apologize, you accept it. But if they don't, if they take to the internet or rely on some indirect means to attack your character, don't engage in their petty game. Let your character stand for itself. Their lack of character will show through to everyone who knows you and everyone who matters. And I think that's what a good man is. It's character. It's helping others, opening doors, saying you're sorry when you're wrong, and sticking to your guns when you're right. It's following the golden rule, and it's working hard every day for the right cause. Once you find that reason, you hang on to it, and it becomes who you are. And this concept is simple, but it's not easy. Never mistake simple for easy. You may have the whole world coming against you, but nothing can stop an idea whose time has come. If you look at the greatest men in history, they share a common trait. They've each been willing to go to any length for love and truth. Jesus, Gandhi, Socrates, Martin Luther King Jr., the list goes on and on. And I'm not saying you have to be a martyr, but you do have to stand fast in the strife. You must be countercultural sometimes, because we live in a society that's overly complex. There are policies and expectations and hundreds of thousands of laws that no one can live up to all the time, let alone understand them, because they're written in archaic tongue. Maybe it's time for a second reformation, one of the law. There's an insightful conversation between Jocko Willink and Jordan Peterson about the standard of accountability to which people are subjected in corporations. But I feel it serves as a microcosm of our society as a whole.
That's actually incredible. So when I work with companies, I was working with a company, this is a couple of years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and they were talking about how they needed to hold their salespeople accountable, and that's what they needed to do, and they needed more accountability, and the sales leadership underneath them needed to hold all their frontline sales leaders accountable for everything, and follow these rules, and make these numbers of calls, and do these follow-up things, and send the follow-up emails, and they needed to get this accountability thing going. And this was when I heard this guy saying this, was the first time I said, because I'd heard this a lot, this word accountability and leadership, you hear, oh, well, we just need better accountability. And it's a trick, because you think about it and you say to yourself, well, if I'm in charge of you guys and I'm going to hold you accountable to make sure you do everything you're supposed to do, well, then we will successfully do what it is you will do, because I held you accountable. I made you do it. The problem is, in any organization, there's too many people to hold everyone accountable to everything that they're supposed to be doing, so it just doesn't work. And so you could take one group, and this is what I said. I said, if you've got one group where you have to hold them accountable for each and everything that you do, and you try and do that, versus a group where people know what they're supposed to do and they want to go and do it, I go, which team is going to win? And he said, well, the group that wants to do it themselves. I go, that's what you need to do, is get them to want to do it themselves. Yeah, exactly. That's leadership.
Exactly.
The exact same thing you just described.
That's exactly right. I mean, look, if you get people to track everything they do, it takes them longer to track it than to do it. Plus, they hate it. They hate it because they're not being trusted, and it's the most terrible, dull administrative work, and it just kills people who are actually productive, because they're driven crazy by that.
I hope from this example you can see the need, if you're a good man or aspire to be a good man. Speak for the preservation of freedom. Stand firm in the faith. Be courageous, be strong, and do everything in love. Remember to like, subscribe, and come back to see us. Take care.